These are good for
Yeah.
any stage of life. So.
4 tips for what to do to stay connected when one part of the empty nest is away from the other part of the empty nest.
This is the Loud, Quiet, Living the Empty Nest.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Loud Quiet episode 69, which is being recorded on a ridiculously cold and snow-filled day.
Yes.
As
I am not in my church clothes, which, I mean, you would wear that to church. I would wear this to our church, but I'm not in my church clothes. I am in my cozy snow day
you know what it
clothes.
looks like? When I'd said earlier you had a very clean look, that's what it is. It has kind of just a snow day look to it that you've got going on.
I'm representing the snow. So, so yeah, we've been stuck inside the house. Well, okay, semi stuck inside the house. Yesterday morning, I was able to go to the gym, and when I left, my car was obviously clean from being inside the garage. When I came out from the gym, I mean, it was completely covered. I was just watching the snow, and it would snow, and then it would really snow, then it would snow, then it would really snow. It was crazy. And so yeah, and then this was this morning. Just, we haven't had snow like this
No, and
in
for those that are
10
just
years.
no, and for those that are just going to only be able to listen and not look at it, it's the factor that I noticed when I was watching, because I didn't leave the house at all yesterday. I stayed, worked out in the garage, and then just stayed at home. Watching the grass disappear, because whenever we get a snow here, okay, the sidewalks will get some snow on it, but the grass usually doesn't ever disappear. This was a true blanket, and I'll add something to that. Our neighbors, their kids came out and built an honest-to-God snowman, not a...
There were several in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
When I came home today, there was one. I was like, oh my gosh, that one is so cute. They put it was girls, and they had put, because I saw them when I left, and then they had put like all these cute different colored buttons. I'm sure they had some stuff laying around. I mean, I was like, wow, that one looks really like professional. And these were, yes, big, 5 feet tall snowman, not like our usual little dinky.
Oh yeah, something that's
snowman.
shorter than the length of my shoe, because that's all you can put together. You said something there. It looked, like they had a bunch of stuff. It looked really cute. I wonder if in other parts of the world, is there such a thing as like you hire somebody to build a cute snowman for you, like how people hire to have their homes get
Well,
decorated?
you can hire for anything. So yes, probably somewhere there is.
What
but
a
I've
business
never
would be.
seen
I've
that
never heard of
service
that.
anywhere.
There you go. For our listeners that are up in the winter regions of the world, there you go. There's a business idea for you.
People in LA hire people to come make snow in their front yards for Christmas. So I'm sure you can hire someone to do anything. But yes, and I was glad again today to be able to get out and head to the gym. Tegan actually went into work. You went into the office for a little bit, so.
I went to the office to record a podcast episode, so.
Yeah. So at least we could get, those of us who felt comfortable enough could get out today.
Well, there was so much snow in the bed of my truck from overnight that I have all the traction that I can want. There's so much weight back there, and then y'all have 4-wheel drive vehicles, so that makes it very nice.
Yes.
Well, we're together and cozy. We're about to be the opposite of that, and I'm comfortable saying that because this episode will release after what I'm talking about. But tomorrow, Tegan and I and her friend will head on a road trip, God and ice willing, head on a road trip to Arizona to take her back to school.
Yes.
And it got us to thinking about being apart. And there's the elements of being apart that are, what we'll talk about, kind of your own identity and those sorts of things. And then there's being physically apart. And being apart, for us, it'll be 2.5 days. It's not a long trip, but there are people that are in either empty nest stage of life or just life that are separated for long, and not relationship separated, but physically apart from each other for longer. It can be a business trip. It could be a military deployment. It could be those sorts of things. And it got us to thinking about, what does it look like to maintain a relationship or just be able to stay connected in those times that you're apart.
And we've experienced that because, when the kids were younger, from our dating days, you were a consultant, so you were gone. Yeah. And then in my flight attendant days, I was physically gone. So our whole lives have been, and then when we had kids, you were traveling to Asia sometimes for 2.5
Right.
weeks at a time. So we have actually experienced this. What I find interesting is during those times, you were at your workplace all day before you would go on these trips. I was working and then would have the kid duty. So it's different since we are in the empty nest now because we do spend a lot more time together than
Wait,
we did.
is there any meaning in the way you said that? Hang on a second. We spent a lot of time.
I think what'd you say yesterday? I know we're in your house all day. I was like, no, that doesn't bother me. What bothered me was that you weren't listening to what I was saying.
Well,
But anyway,
what's really ironic about that is you didn't actually hear what I said. I said, I know you've been in the house all
oh,
day.
I thought you said we've.
And it was it worth, but I find it comical that you accuse me of not listening to you, and then actually you didn't listen to me, and that's the way spats always are. Is
Yeah.
that it's just silly stuff.
But it is now that we are in this emptiness stage, and I am now retired. You work a different schedule than you used to.
Right.
We are together a lot more, and we are now working on a business together.
Right.
So I was up at the office this week for 4 hours. So there are just a lot of different things that go into play now.
Well, and I think I think there's a whole conversation that could be had around what does it mean to work together in the empty nest, and how do you not get at each other's throats because you're together too much. Well, I think one element of that is the idea of time apart, and not just a trip apart, but
Yeah,
being
just
able
anything.
to
Yeah. So when we started talking about this topic, I was like, okay, well, let me just, and I had to phrase my Google search really because I was like, this isn't a separation. Like we need time apart. This is okay. Chill
Y'all,
out, cat.
off camera, the cat is
Sorry.
going absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I don't
Sorry.
even know what he's seeing up there.
We gotta get a studio camera.
He's been cooped up too, although he doesn't go out, but he has been so awake because he was so obsessed with watching the snowfall yesterday and seeing the kids out front. And Tegan, actually, she and her friend Luke got all bundled up and walked down to their elementary school. And so anyways, side note. But
We should get a studio camera and just have that as an extra view of what the heck that nut is doing.
But yeah, so I had to be careful with what I was putting as like, I'm not trying to, this is not a separation. This is, okay, we need to have our own lives. And like when trips come up that you're about to do, okay.
How do you stay connected?
I'm here by myself. How do we, yes. But, so when I did pull up, it said a couple having individual alone time means that partners in a relationship are each taking separate time for themselves, allowing to pursue personal interests, recharge, and maintain their own sense of identity outside of the relationship rather than spending all their time together. When we had the kids, and they were younger, I would say I took more advantage of this, I think, than you did.
Yeah.
But then I think because you always talk about, from the time that we've been together, I need to just go camp, get away. Well, you never really did that much when
No.
the kids were on because they had activities.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I like the fact that you're talking about it because the kids, now we have this life then it was all kids, and then if we ever had, quote, free time, well, we'd want to spend it with each other. Now it's all us, and if we ever have free time, well, I guess we always have free time. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but basically now the extra, the other, the bonus piece can be more focused on self. And I think it's something that I think I've gotten more comfortable with as I've gotten older. I think even we talk about kids, but there is the element of our marriage before when we were separated because you were traveling for your job or I was traveling for my job. Well, that was was just the way it was. That I didn't even think twice about that. But the idea of doing something just me and my buds when you were around, or you doing something that when you were around, well, that would feel kind of odd because this is our moment to be
Right.
together. And now that we've aged, now that life has somewhat changed, I've not only got more comfortable with it, but just the realization of it's not just to be comfortable; it's required.
Yeah.
And having a sense of identity in yourself is a okay and good thing. There's a limit there.
Yeah.
The fact that I want to go camping is just who I am, and I realize that that's not who you are, and so that's okay.
And I think throughout our marriage, there were times that you had to say to me, "Hey, you're doing a little bit too," because there was a time there that the girls that I was hanging out with, we were out a lot, and and I remember you saying, "Hey, it needs," and I think I had already come to the realization too a little bit of, yeah, it's too much, but
Well, because it's such a danger, right? To a relationship.
and we weren't. Let me say, we weren't doing we weren't going to clubs, or well, I guess we did go to clubs sometimes, but not anything. It was just girls having fun. There wasn't anything.
It was girls' night out stuff. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything, and it wasn't even like what a comedy movie of girls' night where it's the party and this the hall pass kind of thing. Or as far as I know, I wasn't there.
No.
But it definitely was, and I think that's the slippery slope that you have to guard against. It feels like now in the empty nest that we dedicate so much time to being together that it feels even more okay to have those moments away.
And even my one girls group that has still remained, we used to go to lunches because
Oh yeah,
we had kid activities in the evening. Now we've moved it to, as soon as they got into they were all driving, then we could move it into dinners. And so,
and let's talk. I mean, I know it goes both ways, but we'll just stick with what you're describing. Now, when you say you've got a girls' night, I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
I have the house to myself.
yeah.
I get to, and it's not that we've got a big enough house, and so we can watch whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. There's just something about being in this building by yourself
yeah.
that is great for a period of time. I think we've talked about that. I think I've said that we're talking about evenings here, but 3 days.
Well, yeah, and especially that brings up another good point, especially now because the kids aren't here. Like you're gone 2 nights this time, which y'all, when you went out there, it was just one night because you flew in and y'all drove back. But so by Monday, I'll be like, okay, I just get a little bored. And yes, there's people I could call and say, hey, do you want to do something? But again, they have their spouses and other people, so I do. Yeah. Which I guess I
suppose that's a good
thing. Then we, still enjoy being around. But yes, you were talking about, your identity and that kind of thing. So some of the things that this article that I pulled said, the benefits of individual alone time, it can help couples appreciate each other more.
It's like, where'd that sentence? It can help couples appreciate each other
more. It can improve communication because, and that one is interesting because sometimes when you're together all the time, you're not talking all the time. Whereas if you're having to make a phone call or you're having to tell something outside of what's happening, I could see that.
I think I'm going way amateur psychology, sociologist, or maybe even just evolutionary biologist here. I think we're wired to tell stories. We're wired to, that's how, originally information was shared way, way back in the day, right? Well, if you're living the same story together because you're together all the time, there's not any story to tell. And so, when I will be able to tell you things about a road trip because you weren't there. You will be able to tell me things when you go out to dinner. Oh, yeah, I had this meal. No. Well, if I were there with you, I would have seen what meal you had.
And, we even do that, the days that you go into the office that I don't go in, but then there's days like when you're working from home, you're like, well, I know what you did all day and you know what I did all day. So,
so what's happening in the world?
So, talked about, individual needs. You just can, alone time needed varies on each person's personality. Introverts often require more solitary time and prevent feeling over. Oh, sorry, no, I was reading the wrong thing. See, this is paper doesn't work when you print it out. Introverts requiring more solitary time than extroverts. I don't, I know there are, I totally see this in Tegan. Like we've talked about that before, how she is done and she
Right.
has to go. I know you're an extroverted introvert or whatever you want to call it, but I don't feel like we do that one that often. Like, hey, I just need to go in this room and be by myself, between us. Now I
think
can
we
see that
do.
with
I just
other
think it may.
people.
Yeah. Huh. I feel like we're exploring this one on the fly. I think that we do. It just appears differently. I will say to you, hey, I'm going to go upstairs and play, Zelda for a bit. Well, that's alone time. Hey, Rick, I'm not interested in this game. I'm going to go watch the show that I want to watch. It's
But that's
activity
different.
driven.
Yeah, but that's different because you're not trying to get away from me. You're not getting away from me to recharge your batteries, which is how
Yeah, and I think you know what the danger in that is I shouldn't use the word danger, but I instead I don't think an introvert is actually trying to get away from. I think they're actually seeking something. They're not trying to get away from the vibrant party. They're seeking the quiet. And so it's not that I don't know that I'm ever, look, I'm just trying to get away. Well, actually, there's times like when we're on each other's nerves. Yeah, you know what? All right.
Well, sure. Yeah.
We just need to take a little
Yeah.
little moment away. So I think it does happen. I get though what you're saying, and that is not as much that my batteries aren't necessarily drained by you.
That's why my statement was that I don't think that you're doing that to recharge. I think you're doing that because you enjoy playing Zelda, and I'm not going to sit there and watch you playing Zelda.
You're not gonna watch me play a
no,
video game
So,
that I'm
and there's shows
dragging
that I
out.
want to watch that you don't want to watch,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So, it just says, this allows for you to open up dialogue about and further communication about, hey, I do need this
Yeah.
time. I do
Yeah.
need to, and we have done that definitely.
I think that you talk about. It's so funny how open up dialogue, such a a fancy word, but I think that actually that alone time, whether it's by choice or by happenstance or whatever, I think it also allows you to figure out what you need, and if not the word need, what you want in a relationship. Sometimes when you're right there with the person in the moment, you're just living life together. But as you take a moment back, you're like, you know what? I would like this. I would like whatever element of a relationship. I want us to do these activities, or I want us to have this type of life or this type of dream, or those kind of things. When you're quiet, you can start to think in those ways. And
Well,
I think
but see, alone time doesn't necessarily mean quiet.
well, it doesn't.
when you-
I
yeah.
guess I'm equating the two
Yeah.
hand in hand. You're right. I'm certainly not having deep thoughts when I'm just trying to make sure that Zelda can get
Yeah.
through this certain side quest.
Yes, but when you go on your camping, yeah, you
Or
probably
Link.
are.
Yeah.
When I'm like this weekend when you're gone, I already said to someone, I said, I'm going to ask him one more time if he wants me to wait and watch Disclaimer, because if not, that's what I'm watching this weekend. So,
Is Disclaimer the book one? Yeah. Okay.
So-
I think I do want to watch that.
yeah, I know. Okay. So last night I was looking, I was like, okay, what can I watch? Because, yes, I'll go out some, but it's still supposed to be cold.
Well, that's
and,
the problem.
it's
the
slushy.
weather sucks
Yeah.
too, right? It's a lot easier to spend time apart when
Yeah.
you can get out of your house.
Yeah. And I'm not going shopping on the weekends. I don't do that because I don't have to. So I don't,
Yeah.
necessarily want to do that. But so, yes, but I get what you're saying, that it does give you time to just think about. I just don't know how much of that I do because, again, I like to have
Yeah.
discussions.
Dialogue.
I
You
won't
almost
use
said
the
it.
dialogue word again because you told me that was fancy. But and I'm not fancy. But
Oh, contraire.
okay. But I get where ideas can, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about last week a little bit, but
Right.
I don't operate sometimes that way.
No,
So.
and that's yeah, it's definitely an and statement. There are absolutely all the times that it's just honestly. Sometimes even when we're sitting and having a conversation like this, we're thinking of deep thoughts and deep words, and sometimes it's just nice to just be apart, right? It's just good. It's just quiet, or forget the quiet part, but just it's a way to just. What did I say when I was traveling? Yeah, I did a backpacking trip with a friend of mine it was the cliched post-college backpacking trip, but we made the mistake of we did not separate. We were hip to hip, and it was a friend. It wasn't a romantic relationship, but we were completely together the entire time, except for the next to last day of the trip when we snapped and were about to kill each other, and it actually destroyed the friendship. And that's a lesson that I've learned and carried forward of it doesn't matter how much you like or love a person, you've got to spend time apart. Now, we've got some things that we talked about as far as, okay, but when you are apart, and it's talking about a trip, not just, hey, let's go spend a little quiet time in the corner kind of thing. But when you are
these
apart,
are when you are physically not in the same place.
This road trip coming up. And there's 4 things that there's many other things that we talked about that you could use, but we have done these and have found great value.
Yeah, and these are good for any stage of life, like we, mentioned before. So.
4 tips for what to do to stay connected when one part of the empty nest is away from the other part of the empty nest. Item 1, schedule daily check-ins.
Now, I don't know if we scheduled them or schedule them. But just, I would say have daily check-ins.
Okay, that's you're right. Here's where I would take that. You're right. The schedule part, I think, comes in if the scheduling requires that you schedule it, right? If it is hey, you're going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that. Okay, we can talk at 5:07 Mountain Time or something like that. I think I do like what you said of intend to check in with each other no matter what.
Yeah. And now it's so easy. If you're not a phone talker, you just text. I mean, it's so easy. And there have been, when you were traveling to Asia, we, probably the beginning, I don't know if we had our cell phone. I mean, like the Apple phone yet.
No, we definitely didn't have that, but I was able, there was a particular tool that I could use. I don't think it was Skype. I think it was something else. Yeah. And that was a little more not scheduled, but we knew the times because that was different. As an empty nester, we've got schedule flexibility. That was okay. I'm waking up in the morning. Yeah. I've got to make sure that I call you at a certain time because that's when the kids were going to bed, and then the vice versa. I would call you in the evening after y'all would wake up, but before the kids would go to school.
And what we talked about today was that sometimes on those trips that you're across the pond are easier to schedule than when you're in California.
Oh, it's
there
such
were times
beating.
when you were in California, I wouldn't talk to you at night because you were out doing dinners or whatever, and I'm going to bed.
Yeah, the overlap. It really was funny how, and that's that really gets at the root of okay. Now schedule them if you know it's going to be wonky like that. Okay, figure out a way to take your break at 3:00 in the afternoon in California, whatever. All right. Item number 2, send good morning and good night messages.
And
this one's spot on.
Yeah, we do this. And I mean, we even do it sometimes now because you leave well before I'm awake. And so sometimes we do that even now, but.
And it's even with, there's no purpose behind it too. Because you have chosen your phone is on because if there's, as we just saw, if there's kids that need to call or contact, you've been the phone of choice for that. Yeah. So I try to be aware of that, but there's one of us will always hit the other with a good morning.
And one thing we said, now we've matured enough in our relationship that, hey, if I haven't talked to you,
an actual phone conversation,
call,
right?
Then I'm throwing you a text saying, I'm going to bed. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Love you.
Yeah.
And then, so.
It takes something like this on the road trip that if we're just unable to really have a reasonable conversation, and or a work trip or something like
Yeah.
that where my activities or your activities take it out of sync. We've definitely, and I've sent those to you as well. When I basically, hey, I'm shutting down.
Yeah.
I can't carry this forward anymore. So,
Yeah.
but do definitely that. Send good morning, good night messages. Item number 3: celebrate time apart with humor. And the idea behind this is, okay, it's not just about what's part of the day and that kind of stuff, but almost have a laugh about the fact that you are apart from each other.
Yeah. And most of the time this probably came from my side because I was here with the children. So there are
Yes.
lots of things that happen. And now I'm here with the other child that just walked out of the room.
I think you made a little screen time there.
Like, just like you were saying when we brought up this topic earlier, I texted you the other morning, was like, and he barfed, so just, and you weren't necessarily gone. I think you were at the office.
It doesn't
but
matter though.
I
I've gotten
know,
that
but
text when
yes.
I've been away of, well, the cat barfed.
Well, I'll text her. Hey, your cat barfed when
Yeah.
she's in Arizona. Not like she can do anything about it. Just letting you know, though, he barfed.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And I'm here cleaning it up.
And that's the part, is not take it so seriously,
Yeah.
right? And I don't think that we don't need a list to tell you and me that. I think though that there could be couples out there that are hearing this that are, oh, hey, let's be as romantic as possible because this is our chance to connect and that kind of stuff, and on the phone together because we're apart. You know what? Sometimes just laugh about that you are apart.
Oh, yeah. And
tell the stupid, crappy, funny things that happen because you are apart.
And I would put in here being the spouse who was the one at home, and this would go more. I mean, there are people in the empty nest whose spouses travel still, especially when you're the one at home with the kids. And yes, you want to hear about all the stuff that the other one is doing, but sometimes, and you have to check yourself both ways. Because there were some times that I was like, oh, that's nice. You're getting to go out to all these nice dinners and do
yeah.
these touristy things. And I'm stuck here making dino bites and macaroni and cheese. So that just goes along with the.
It does. I will tell you that there were certainly times on even some of those trips that actually dino bites and mac and cheese might have been pretty darn good. So. That's a whole nother realm of business travel. Sounds a lot more glamorous than it is until you're doing it.
And that was just an aside for our, listeners who are in this situation when one has to stay home and one,
Last one.
gets to go.
Last one of the 4 that we had. And this is not one, this is one that we were kind of exposed to, but I don't know how much we do. Have a reunion ritual. I don't know that we have a reunion ritual.
No, because, you said when the kids were younger, when you got home, would be like, all right, let's get a babysitter, let's go out. Now it's just, okay, this is our life. Like,
Right.
we don't have anything that's keeping us. We can go out on a Tuesday. We can go out on nothing has to be planned or, scheduled.
I do think there's something in there, if not the word ritual, but there's a reconnecting, a re-entry into the existing process. Now, after 2.5 days, that's not what we're talking about here. The spouse that has traveled away, there is an element of you come back into an environment that didn't exist with you for a period of time. And I think that's heavily true with the kids. I think it's still true inside the empty nest world. And recognize that you're coming back into that world that's existed without you, and so be sensitive to what that might mean. You may want to come back and be like, all right, let's go out. We're back together. Let's go do things. And the other either might be really excited about that because, yay, let's go do something. Or it might be, what are you talking about? I've been living a normal life. There's no reason to do something
And
like
I
that.
think that adds the element of when you have kids still at home versus not. Because when the kids were still at home and you got home, yes, of course, I was so happy that you were back. But it would be like, the last thing I want to do is go out right now because I've been
You're
solo.
exhausted. Yeah.
Now, no, let's go, let's do. But I will say this, when you talked about being gone and coming back to an environment that you haven't been in, what did I used to do when you would be gone on these long trips? And you would come home and be like, oh, this room is,
Oh my gosh! Oh, the painting. Yeah. Okay. So
or new furniture, or
so let's talk about maybe not the anti-tip.
I don't have 2.5 days is not enough time for me to do
The
it.
anti-tip is don't change the house in such a dramatic way that the person walking in wonders where they are.
You have liked every change that I did, but yes.
I have told you that I've liked every change that you did.
Oh, okay.
I do think there's something to the ritual, though, right? You know, maybe we're past it or something like that, but I like the idea. It's, I don't know what that could mean. It could be just something as simple as, hey, let's go get an ice cream cone together. We're back together. It could be, hey, let's go sit on the back porch together and just catch up. It could be, I don't know what it is, but I like the idea of we've been apart, now we are together. And I think there's something neat there.
And I think that's probably easier to do when you have someone who's consistently, like if you were still
absolutely.
consulting working the entire time of our marriage, then yeah, we probably would have created something that, just like, you know, everyone has rituals probably that they do in the evening. Okay, we don't turn on the TV during dinner because that is our time to catch up and talk.
Right.
We also, now that we're empty nesters, we have that time even before dinner sometimes to talk. So I can see, but I do see that if you're consistently gone, then it probably is just a ritual that you don't even know that you're doing, but it has become part of your routine.
Yeah, I could let's say that were our scenario, right? I could absolutely see that I have the airport Uber take me to our favorite restaurant, you know, and you meet me at the bar and we enjoy kind of reconnecting there, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So there you go. 4 tips for staying connected while one spouse is away from the other inside the empty nest and, well, beyond the empty nest too. Schedule daily check-ins, send good morning, good night messages, celebrate time apart with humor, and have a reunion ritual.
And just knowing that it is beneficial to both of you to have, you know, time apart, even if it doesn't have to be more than a few hours. I mean, the examples that they gave, you know, is go on a solo walk, go out back and read your book. You know, just because I realize for some people, you can't do, you know,
what do we do every Saturday morning that we're home and the weather's good? We each go on a long, independent walk.
Which is interesting because when we're traveling, we go together.
We do.
So, you know, but now that I have my gym, which gym update, yes, I did find a gym, and yes, I am enjoying it. So I'll be, you know, when the weather's nice, or I'll still probably go for my walk. But I'm so glad that I have a place like today to go to get a workout in.
It does. So, and all of that, right? It shows that even in the things that we didn't even think about, we're finding ways to be, you know, our independent time. And then we do stay connected when we are apart for other reasons.
And I think that, you know, one thing this article brought up, you know, was codependency. And I think learning to do these things while you're both still here and can do it, because you don't want to be so codependent that when one is gone, you just shut down and can't do anything.
Yeah, that I'm just going to sit in a corner somewhere. Yeah, absolutely. So. Well, it's good. We've learned there are tips, there are ways to enjoy that time together, that time apart, and that time to reconnect. And
we'll see how we do when you're gone for the next couple of days.
We'll see. Absolutely. All right, kiddo. That was fun. Another episode of The Loud Quiet.
Living the Empty Nest.